I know. I've said so many times in the last 2 Z memories about how much I dislike the school setting for visual novels. Yet here I am, with the 3rd game in a row, talking about a visual novel with a school setting. I did not plan this, but I guess that's how it's gonna be. Welcome to, wow, Day 10 of Z Memories. We're getting close to the end, folks. Today's visual novel is an old one to be certain, but probably one that many of you older folk have checked out, and that of course being Sharin no Kuni, Himawari no Shoujo, or as the soon-to-be released Kickstarter English version translates it, Sharin no Kuni, The Girl Among the Sunflowers. I think it has been almost a decade since I played this game, so needless to say, it's been a long time. Again, there's no super special reason this one is on here. It's one of the earliest I ever played, and I just think the story has a great twist that is executed really well, and blew my younger mind to pieces way back when. Music's good too, and overall it's a solid visual novel that I'm sure, again, anyone can enjoy even now. Let's just jump straight into it. So Sharin no Kuni is made by Akabe Soft 2, which is entirely not important because the only 2 visual novels I bet people actually played from them are either this one or Jisenjo no Mall. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. They later spawned a bunch of additional companies like Akatsuki Works and Applique. However, we're only talking about this one for now. Sharin no Kuni came out in 2005. Of course, I didn't play it then, as you all know already if you are keeping up with Z Memories, that I wasn't quite fluent in moon runes just yet. TL Wiki, made a rest in peace as usual, made a translation for it in 2009, which is the version I ended up playing. Also, yes, there was a fan disc containing an additional prequel story following Hozuki a couple years back. And epilogue stories for the main heroines called Sharin no Kuni, Yukyu no Shonen Shoujo. That said, for this video at least, when I say Sharin no Kuni, I'm only talking about the original game. Sharin no Kuni has a pretty interesting setting and story. Yes, it's a high school, but it takes place in a dystopian society where individuals who break the law are imposed special unique duties, which they are forced to follow until their eventual rehabilitation. The people who oversee these criminals are the special elites, the cream of the crop, secret agents of sorts. The main character, Morita Kenichi, is on the cusp of becoming one such agent. All of the other applicants have dropped out, mostly from being dead, so he's the only one taking it this time. Kenichi's final trial is to oversee 3 girls in a certain town. One who cannot be awake for longer than 12 hours, one who is forced to listen to their parents' orders no matter what, and one who cannot touch anyone of the opposite gender. Although Kenichi comes to finish this final trial and become a special elite, his encounter with these 3 girls will reveal perhaps why he wanted to become one in the first place. Looking back on this one, I feel like I remember most of the visual novel not actually taking place in school, but that might be because the early school section might have been so boring that I've blocked it from my mind. Really though, my bias aside, the entire early section of the game that takes place in school during chapter 1 is entirely fine, really. It's a good get to know the cast section with some comedy. It does the job well, and I say as far as school introductions go, it's fairly interesting. Main character Morita Kenichi is a pretty fun weirdo, likes to speak to himself a lot and break the 4th wall, which leads the other classmates to question his sanity. He really does remind me of Cross Channel's main character. He's supremely good at literally everything: martial arts, firearms, money, business deals, charisma. He's also a complete sarcastic jackass, which is definitely a been there, done that personality, but I still tend to really like it. He's also got a best friend who is even more similar to the cross-channel guy, Uzuki Sepia. Probably helps that Sepia has white hair and is kind of legitimately insane. As for the 3 heroines, Mitsuhiro Sachi, Ono Toka, and Hinata Natsumi, they're all done really well. They all have very basic personalities at first. Sachi is the free-spirited, outgoing girl with bad grades. Toka is the stuck-up, tsundere class president. Natsumi is the shy, gloomy girl. But as you go through each of their chapters, you get to see the parts of them they have hidden, and more importantly, why each of them have such strange conditions imposed upon them. There are quite a few hard-hitting topics in this visual novel, and Sharin no Kuni does an excellent job tackling each one of them. The drama and conflicts in this story really do feel like emotional gut punches, and best of all, are rather relatable for most people, I imagine. Even without any supernatural elements, the visual novel is phenomenal from beginning to end. There is a conflict every chapter that keeps tensions really high, even without a clear villain. You really do feel for each heroine and the restrictions they have to face, especially when you slowly realize why they have them. While Hozuki is a clear menacing force, the true villain in a sense is the strange dystopian society they live in. I like the story a lot, although the route system is definitely not one of my favorites. Weird concept, I know, let me explain myself. How it works in Sharin no Kuni is that the general flow of the story is separated into 5 chapters, 1 intro chapter, 3 corresponding chapters to each one of the main heroines, and the final one, so no matter what, you will go through every heroine's story as you play the game. Sure, it kind of forces you to go through each of the characters' arcs, even if you aren't interested in them, but I think that's the beauty of a visual novel, where you play a route whose character you are initially put off by, and it changes your opinion of that character by the end. I'm also a huge sucker for the type of story where you play separate routes, and then the final route brings everyone together for a final showdown, so that might be why I like it as well. Now, as to why I don't like the route system, well, this visual novel does what I can only call to be a bad version of Ji Senjo no Mao's route system. Makes sense. Ji Senjo no Mao was made later, so maybe they realized in hindsight that this current system they use is a terrible idea. So in Sharin no Kuni, at the end of each chapter, you are essentially given the choice to lock yourself into that heroine's ending, or keep yourself open for the heroines in subsequent chapters. My problem with this is that 1, the first time you're playing it, it's really easy to lock yourself into the first heroine, Mitsuhiro Sachi, without even realizing it. 2, this route locking doesn't change anything until the final chapter, and it even barely changes that. And you know how much I dislike it when a visual novel route have like 90% common route. Kind of makes it so that there really isn't a reason to play the game more than once. 3, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure most of the choices made in the game don't actually matter because this is a linear story. Which, I mean, I get it, but I don't enjoy it when a visual novel mostly has meaningless choices. I'm fine with reading a kinetic novel, basically a visual novel without choices, but I don't enjoy it when I'm making a ton of choices on the premise they matter, when the game doesn't even care what I put in. Unless it's some sort of psychological thing, or the game is playing around with the concept of choice, like in Kimi to Kanojo by Nitro Plus. Ji Senjo no Mao does it a lot better. There is a linear story, but as you go through it, you're given the option to branch into the heroine's story instead, and each heroine's story has its own route. You get the same concept of a linear story, but instead you have branching routes that offer what-if scenarios if the player chooses to pursue them, rather than this half-assed nonsense in Sharin no Kuni. At this point, I would like to put a minor spoiler warning, because I'm going to mention some parts of each chapter, none of which will spoil a big twist, but if you already plan on playing the Kickstarter version when it comes out, you don't need me here revealing any details, right? I also mentioned my favorite characters and such, mostly because it's really hard for me to talk about anything while restricting myself to like the first 1/5 of the entire game. There will be a big spoiler warning later, but that will have all the bells and whistles you all used to already. Okay, so while I made the whole speech about how the villain is the society they live in, it's pretty obvious that Kenichi's boss, Hozuki Masaomi, is the actualization of that concept. He's the one who manipulates all the strings in the background, and tries to turn Kenichi into a cog of this terrible society. This leads to the finale, which I like a lot. I think it's super exciting. It allows for all of the previous heroines that Kenichi have helped to pitch in. There are tons of actual action occurring, as opposed to the more emotional drama that was present in every chapter. Although with that said, it does have one absolutely terrible section. While nearly every choice in the visual novel you make is meaningless, there is one part in the finale where Kenichi, and in turn the player, is forced to make a ton of choices in a row, randomly searching locations for all of the heroines. and if you don't take the right path in a set amount of choices, you get tossed into a bad ending. Why is the only choice that matters in this visual novel a series of RNG choices that you have no control over? Aside from that, yeah, the finale was great, a solid ending which I'll talk more about in the big spoiler section. I can't say what my favorite heroine is now, since I'm obviously a much different person than I was way back when, but I remember when I first played it, it was Toka, which I know, I usually express my distaste for the tsundere personality type, but hey, tastes change. And that wasn't the reason why I liked her in the first place. Also, just as a reference, I do like a heroine being real affectionate towards the main character. I just dislike the whole, let me act like I don't like you, but I actually like you, but I don't want to show it, so instead let me just act like a massive dick. It's just not really my cup of tea. Back to Toka, the reason why Toka was my favorite is probably because I really respect the way she acts near the end of her route. Which, hey, that's what I was saying earlier about how a character's route can change your perspective on them. Anyways, the exact moment was when her foster mom, Kyoko, flips the heck out and ruins the dinner Toka worked so hard on while screaming at her. God dang, did that moment hit real hard. It really breaks my heart seeing Toka smile even as her mom completely destroys the table and vents all her frustrations built up through her entire life onto her. I definitely felt for Toka and even for her mother Kyoko during that moment. On the other side of the spectrum, there is Kenichi's sister Ririko, the girl he keeps on going on and on about during school, torturing her little brother with burning candles in some sort of weird S&M play flashback? Okay. If there was any part of the plot which felt like it only existed because the author suddenly remembered that he was making an eroge, it would be that one scene with Ririko. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, yeah, sure, every heroine has their own scenes, should you choose to go on their own route, but at least those kind of make sense in the story, and you aren't just showing it randomly for the sake of showing it. I mentioned earlier that I didn't like how the route system turned out. Well, the reason they hardlocked during the chapter is because the choice to confirm which heroine ending you get after the finale is the game asking you, hey, do you want to get H scenes with her? And Kenichi isn't a big enough butthole that he bones all the girls one by one in this linear story. Which, props to him, really. Most main characters of eroges would go for that route. As is usually the case for more, shall we say, normal stories, the 18+ doesn't really do anything for the plot, although I will say at least they don't actively ruin it like in Little Busters. And that, my friends, will bring the minor spoiler part of today's Z-Memory to a close. As I mentioned in the beginning, there is a fan disc to Sharin no Kuni, containing both epilogues for all of the main heroines, as well as a prequel story following Hozuki and Kenichi's dad. However, that will be a topic for another day if anyone is interested. At this point, if you're one of those waiting for the Kickstarter English version, stop right here. It's a fantastic visual novel, and I do recommend it for anyone to read. I'd say that out of all the visual novels on Z Memories, this is probably one of the best in the traditional sense, like Little Busters. Like, Twitter, subscribe, and notification buttons, all of that is there in case this is where you are stopping. Seriously, if you have any intention of playing Sharin no Kuni, and you just stuck around to hear me talk more, well, for one, hey, thanks man, I appreciate it. But two, stop right now, these are gonna be big spoilers. I really like the big twist of the game. The one where Kenichi acts like he's talking to you, the player, in fourth wall meta breaking moments throughout the entire visual novel, but in actuality is talking to his non-blood related sister, Higuchi Ririko. She is a criminal under the worst possible penalty under the law, the obligation to go unrecognized by the world, where any contact with her is strictly forbidden, and those who break it are sent to concentration camps. It's definitely one of those, oh, that was why the main character was acting like that the entire time. It's a big enough twist that I'm impressed they pulled it off, but not monumentally stupid enough that I felt as if the entire story was working towards this twist, to the detriment of itself. Of course, when I'm saying all this, I'm referring again to Zero Escape series, my shining example of this. The other twist I really enjoyed was the moment during the final conflict between Kenichi and Hozuki Masaomi, the big boss. Kenichi has Hozuki on the ropes, but he reveals that although we have seen him using a walking stick for a supposedly lame leg, Hozuki has actually been pretending that it's been injured the entire story. Not just during the main plot, but also the many years that took place beforehand. This is then one-upped by Kenichi, who after getting captured and detained, suffers from extreme withdrawals after not taking his calming drugs for a long time. When Hozuki thinks he's got him cornered, the main character busts out that Uno reverse card and defeats him, revealing that he too has only been pretending to be addicted to the drug for the past many years. It sounds kind of dumb when I'm saying it back to back like this, but what's really cool about it is that the visual novel sets up these expectations, as you see Kenichi smoking from his pipe pretty much throughout the entirety of it. He does it after every moment where he starts to lose control over his emotions, or even just recreationally, that at some point the reader just passively accepts that smoking is just something natural that Kenichi does. The fact that this is actually a plot relevant detail all along, and is the turning point for Kenichi's comeback, is really satisfying. Alrighty, that's all I got for Sharin no Kuni, and that brings day 10 of Z Memories officially to a close. Again, if you want to tell me about all the great Akabe Soft 2 games that I never heard of, or about Sharin no Kuni in general, feel free in the comment section. As always, the like button is down there, Twitter if you want to see what I'm up to during my downtime, subscribe if you want to support me, and hit the notification and all button if you want to stay up to date when the next video comes out. We've only got 2 days left for Z Memories, and I decided that before the final day, instead of just doing another visual novel, I instead decided to make honorable mentions of the many visual novels that didn't make Z Memories for one reason or another. Chances are, many of the ones that you've played or have heard of or asking me if they're going to be on here are probably going to be on this list, so look forward to that. Thanks for sticking around as always. If you missed day 9 on my favorite school comedy series Majikoi, links are on top, and on the bottom will be something interesting. See you on day 11.